could you please outline an alternative to pure nationalisation?
I think that nationalisation comes back to the Freedom Charter, where the Freedom Charter called for the ownership of the mineral rights by the people of South Africa as a whole. Now that's actually quite an admirable thing, and the new dispensation in fact affords that, and the state does own the mineral rights on behalf of the people of South Africa. What are we going to do with those? Because mines are capital intensive and we need outside money to build them. How does everybody benefit from this going forward? As people who provide the capital want a return. I think that one of the best ways we could look at this is the concept of a sovereign wealth fund. It's worked in Norway, it's worked in Singapore, and I think that we can look at this sort of stuff for South Africa. In that the sovereign wealth fund would invest in these projects up to the 25 or 26% or more if they chose to, and the benefits from that investment would then flow from the fund to the people who don't have mineral rights in their territories. So what I would suggest is that instead of having this 26% BEE, that the sovereign wealth fund in fact is the participant. The mines look after the local communities with their social and labour plans, and that again is another rent on the revenues, and that the sovereign wealth fund takes that benefit and spreads it around the country. So I think that in the most simplistic way is probably an elegant way of solving this problem of nationalisation. If a national fund invests in your mine in Welkom and makes a profit, it can take that profit and either reinvest it in another mine, or it can invest it in social schemes and projects in areas which don't have mines at all. Because at the moment, only the people who live around mines get any benefit from their social and labour plans, any of the spin-off of the extra business in the area, the jobs that go with it. They're all focused on local communities. That needs to be spread to the people of South Africa as a whole, which is why people are pushing the concept of nationalisation. But there's much more capital efficient ways of achieving the same ends.
Okay. So how do you push for a sovereign fund?
I think that we need to have more discussions like this, and I think we need to have discussions that lobby for an understanding of the problem and a practical solution to it. The PIC has money, the NEF has money, the Lotteries Board has money, and we criticise what they do with it. This is in fact somewhere where it could be actually employed in building our own mining infrastructure and deploying the benefits of that to the people as a whole.
What causes regulatory uncertainty in South Africa?
I think we have to go back to when, in the mid-90s, when we put the new Act together, and then they followed it with the Charter. There was such a lot to do in changing it from a privately owned mineral rights environment to a state-owned mineral rights environment, and also the intent that a lot of the benefits should be shared. So we created a new environment for which there was no precedent. And if I can draw an analogy, the British have been using precedent since the Magna Carta, and the Americans have been using precedent since, I think, 1776, correct me if I'm wrong, and we've been going at it for about 20 years. And we just don't have enough precedent. So when ministerial discretion was given in terms of the Act, she delegates, or he or she delegates that discretion, which is correct because you have to administer it, but there is no precedent on how that discretion should be utilised. And we have to build up that case of precedent. So while people are struggling with how do we implement these issues, you have uncertainty. So I think that's the biggest cause for uncertainty. One can look at corruption, one can look at people who are lazy, but generally we have a system that has to build precedent before we're going to get stability. So I think we have to look at a 10-year window still where we build that precedent network.